This is the F-35B Lightning II. The Marine Corps' multi-role fighter jet is equipped with the most advanced sensor suite of any fighter in history and the most powerful engine of any jet in the world, which can reach a top speed of 1,200 miles per hour.
It's just revolutionized what fighter aircraft are capable of.
And these are the pilots training to fly that $100 million aircraft.
A lot of people just think, you show up, fly, and then go home, have a beer, but it's not all like that.
Not only are you flying, but you're talking on 4 different radios. You're working the radar, you're working the T-FLIR, you're working the electrical optical system there while you're still navigating, talking to ATC, and then working weapons on top of that.
Student pilots spend a year training to fly the F-35 Bravo here at the Marine Corps Air Station in Beaufort, South Carolina. This is a pilot's last stop before getting deployed to a fleet squadron overseas. And it's here they learn to handle the multi-role fighter jet in a variety of missions.
We do strikes, so aerial interception. We do OCA, DCA, so offensive counter-air, defensive counter-air, armed reconnaissance, and then really the bread and butter though is SEAD, so suppression of enemy air defenses.
The pilots we met are part of Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 501, also known as the Warlords.
Once you complete here, they send you out to the fleet squadrons, out in Yuma or Japan.
Student pilots in the training squadron have already completed flight school, so training is focused specifically on operating the F-35B.
Eventually, every fighter pilot that comes through the Marine Corps is going to go fly an F-35.
I'm Michael Watts. I'm a major in the Marine Corps. My grandfather was a pilot in World War II, and I would always go to his house, see his models of his B-25 bomber. And also my father was a Navy pilot in Vietnam. So I kind of grew up with it, in my blood. Right here, we're just basically starting you learn how to fly the airplane, and then you go through all the different mission sets and basic skills.
Because there are only so many jets that can fly at a time, most of the pilot's instruction comes on the ground, in the simulator and in the classroom. We weren't allowed to film some classified aspects of the pilot's instruction. But we were allowed to film the pilots practicing the aircraft's most unique capabilities, and go behind the scenes as they suited up for a training mission. During training, it's crucial for the pilots to get comfortable executing the F-35B's STOVL maneuvers, because they'll have to master those techniques on an aircraft carrier.
Really, the main thing is when we fly off the ship. So when I get out to Japan here in a few weeks, I'll eventually be learning how to fly off the ship. How do we get on there? We do vertical landings. How do we take off? We do short takeoffs. And so that's really the big reason why we're doing that.
Lockheed Martin makes 3 variations of the F-35 Lightning II, but the Marine Corps' F-35 Bravo is the only one with STOVL capabilities. This feature is a big reason why the Marine Corps' 2019 aviation plan called for replacing its current fleet of aircraft with more than 350 F-35Bs.
We're replacing all of the Hornets, all of the Harriers, and all the Prowlers with F-35s.
Conventional jets need about 3,000 feet for takeoff, but in optimal conditions, an F-35B can take off in just a couple hundred feet.
For a takeoff, we get onto the runway, and then at that point is when we initiate a conversion. We literally just hit a button, and then the plane goes through its transformer sequence, right? Once that's complete, we're now what's called STOVL mode. There's different kinds of short takeoffs we can do. My favorite's the button. It's called a button stow. And as I'm accelerating down the runway, and literally just click a button, and then the plane will take off by itself. It's pretty incredible. And then shortly after takeoff, we can convert back to conventional mode once we get to a certain airspeed.
Once in the air, actually handling the jet isn't the most difficult aspect of operating it.
It's actually a really easy airplane to fly. It's more difficult to process the amount of information it provides to you, I would say, knowing where to look at the right time.
The student pilots already have experience flying jets, so much of their training is focused on utilizing technology unique to the F-35B.
A lot of the difficulty is trying to absorb all of the information the jet's given you, operate all the sensors and the systems at the same time, and fly. And really, that's probably the #1 struggle.
Once a practice mission is complete, pilots must take on another of the jet's unique features: executing a vertical landing.
Having never done it, it was an experience. My brain telling me not to slow down because in the Hornet, slow down, that meant you're going to fall out of the sky.
It's a normal approach to landing, like as if you're going to the runway, right? And then you're going to level off and then set a certain ground speed. And then at a certain distance from the pad, you're going to start a deceleration. And all that is just a click of a button. And then from there, you're making sure that you're centered on the pad. Then you just push forward on the stick and then descend right onto the pad.
I would say the first time doing a vertical landing in the F-35B is pretty crazy. You practice it a lot in the sim. You do it, dozens of times in the simulator. But the first time you do it in the plane, just slowing down for the first time like that and hovering over a pad with over 30,000 pounds of metal, 150 feet in the air is pretty neat.
Usually you have like the world kind of coming at you when you're flying, right? And so you're kind of sitting there just like looking outside as if you're like in the tower or something, and you trust that you're fine there, that you're still flying.
Before stepping foot in the cockpit, student pilots need to familiarize themselves with the gear needed to operate the F-35B, starting with their anti-gravity suit, which helps prevent them from losing consciousness while operating the jet.
It's a fabric material that has bladders inside of it, and whenever you pull G, it uses pressure from the engine to inflate, and then it prevents your blood from pulling down to your legs, and it pushes it up to your abdomen as much as possible.
Each pilot's G-suit is custom made to fit perfectly around their lower body.
And then we have a flight jacket that we put on, and it has a bunch of survival gear.
The pilot's flight jacket is filled with a multitude of survival tools in the event that they have to eject from the aircraft, including a flare, emergency strobe light, compass, survival knife, extra water, whistle, radio, and an oxygen mask.
They have a code car for hand and arm signals, just signal search and rescue basically. Then they have a signaling mirror, just signal the aircraft with just a mirror and a reflection.
Some less conventional survival tools are supplied by the pilots themselves.
I always try to take my wallet in case I have to land somewhere else other than back here. That's happened to me before. You land somewhere and you have to stay the night, you don't have any wallet or phone or anything, which is kind of difficult. So definitely take my wallet with me every time.
In the event the pilots have to eject from the jet, their flight jacket is embedded with a unique safety feature.
There's arm restraint lines that are routed throughout the jacket. When you eject, they pull your arms basically in towards your body. You're basically ensuring that your arms aren't going to get flailed out into the wind.
The jacket is also equipped with a flotation device in case the pilot has to eject over a body of water.
So as soon as it touches the water, it will inflate the entire jacket, so they don't have to do anything if their arms are broken or anything after ejection.
Last but not least, the pilots learn to utilize the most technologically advanced piece of equipment, their $400,000 helmets. Each helmet is custom fit to its wearer, based on a 3D scan of the pilot's head. It's also equipped with noise-canceling headphones, night vision, and a forward-facing camera that records each flight. The pilot's heads-up display is projected directly onto their visor rather than on the glass at the front of the cockpit, thanks to two small projectors inside the helmet. This allows the pilot to easily view key data, such as altitude, airspeed, and direction.
Since the jet is able to help us so much, really flying should be second nature. That way you can focus on all of the information that the jet's giving you.
Finally, the F-35's distributed aperture system creates a 360-degree view of the jet's surroundings by stitching together feeds from 6 cameras mounted on the plane, enabling the pilot to see through the base and walls of the aircraft.
I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of work it takes to become a pilot, and a fighter pilot specifically.
A 1-hour flight, even a simulated one, might mean up to 6 additional hours of briefing, gearing up, flight inspections, and debriefing, not to mention the hours spent studying for each mission.
So you could spend a whole day preparing and debriefing 1 single hour of flight. I think it's awesome to be in the 5th generation stealth fighter, kind of at the tip of the spear. It's a heavily weighted aircraft in terms of the combat power that the Marine Corps brings to the fight, and I'm honored to be a part of that. It's definitely pretty cool to carry on that tradition, talk to my dad about everything that I'm doing now and how it relates to what he did. All the airports that he flew into, some of the ones that I've flown into as well, so he has stories. It's pretty neat.